Long ago in the village of Karumo, there lived a family known as the Adibos. They had 3 children, 2 daughters named Kesa and Loma, and a son named Tendo. Their parents, Baba Jabari and Mama Afia, lived in a humble clay brick house with a tin roof that creaked when the wind blew. Baba Jabari was well known across Karumo as a skilled mason, building houses with steady hands and a sharp eye, while Mama Afia stayed home. Though she was considered a housewife, most of her days were spent laughing and gossiping under the shade trees with other women, only returning when the sun tilted low, just in time to pretend she'd been busy with housework all day. Despite their modest means, the Adibos always managed to have a warm meal on the mat each evening. What truly lifted their spirits was the belief that one day their children would make life better. Tendo and Kesa always returned from school with top grades, their names often called during village gatherings for honors. But Loma, though older than Kesa, struggled mightily. Her books were always dog-eared and her eyes clouded with confusion. She had repeated more than one class, falling behind the younger Kesa, whose bright answers always drew applause. "Why must I show you the same thing again and again?" Mama Afia would sigh in frustration, hovering over Loma's half-finished homework. "You're always sketching birds and trees while your siblings are solving sums." Kesa and Tendo would stifle giggles and nudge each other, murmuring "Slow Loma, silly Loma," as she tried to make sense of her lessons. When Baba Jabari came home after a long day laying bricks under the hot sun, his face would darken if he caught sight of Loma frowning at her schoolbooks. "She takes after you," he'd mutter to his wife. "Always busy with nonsense. If I had the chance to study, I'd be a doctor by now, but this one will be lucky to even finish school." Every night, Mama Afia would force Loma to sit and revise, sometimes abandoning her midway through. By the time Loma finished, dinner would be over, and she would be left to eat cold yam alone and bathe with the last of the water, long cooled. If she dared complain, her mother would snap, "Study faster next time. Maybe then you'll eat with the rest of us." Unlike her siblings, Loma had to sweep the courtyard, scrub pots, and fetch water before she could even open her books. Kesa and Tendo were left to focus on their studies undisturbed. Loma often found herself cleaning late into the evening, hearing her siblings discussing homework under the glow of the lantern. "Where will you study next year?" Kesa would ask Tendo excitedly. "Maybe Boma Medical College," he'd reply. Their futures seemed golden, while Loma's felt muddy and stuck. One evening, Tendo and Kesa were seated at the table, their books neatly arranged. Outside, Loma was crouched beside the basin, washing their uniforms. Her hands ached, the soap stinging the cuts on her knuckles. When she finally sat to read, her eyes drooped from exhaustion. "Why can't you be like them?" Baba Jabari growled as he passed. "Even a goat can remember better than you." Loma's chest tightened, tears burning behind her eyes, but she said nothing. She didn't understand why she was so different, why her brain wouldn't grasp things like her siblings did. At night, she lay awake staring at the shadows on the wall, wondering if she truly belonged in this family. Every mistake brought punishment. Her mother's hand was quick, and the words from her siblings cut deeper. At school, she sat silently, in the last row. Being the tallest in class, she was placed at the back, her presence barely noticed. Even when teachers asked simple questions, Loma remained quiet, afraid of failing again. During break time, she sat alone, watching the others play bow and skipping rope. School was hard, but home was worse. She began to wonder if she had been adopted. Her brother Tendo, now in his final year, was already being called Dr. Tendo. At home. "Don't touch that," Mama Afia would warn. "Give those shoes to Loma. She'll shine them for you. You must focus. Next year, you'll be at the city university." She boasted to anyone who'd listen, repeating how her son would build her a fine new house when he became a doctor. His teachers had written strong recommendations, and the scholarships rolled in like rain in harvest season. Meanwhile, Loma ironed shirts and folded school sweaters that weren't hers. When she asked for help, Mama Afia snapped, "It's not like your time's useful anyway." Despite this, Loma studied late into the night, hoping for a miracle. But no matter how much effort she poured into her tests, her name was always called last, her scores the lowest. Girls would whisper, "Aren't your siblings the smart ones? What happened to you?" and laugh when the results were read aloud. She'd stare at her score, numb, unable to understand why she couldn't keep up. By year's end, Tendo was honored across Karumo, even featured on national radio. People gathered at the Adebo home with drums and blessings. "You've made us proud," neighbors said. "Your son will put us on the map." Mama Afia beamed, repeating how her son would build her a mansion. Baba Jabari, though stricter, would grumble when she overshared, but her pride couldn't be silenced for long. Early in the new year, Tendo moved to the capital. Relatives far and wide came to help. Some brought money, others came to escort him to the bus station. He was welcomed with open arms, given a room and registered at university with ease. Back in Karumo, Kesa stepped into the spotlight. She announced she would become an actuary, already topping her class in mathematics. "She'll be the next star," neighbors said. And Loma, still 3 years away from finishing high school. She moved like a shadow in the house. But that year something changed. A new girl, Weena, moved into the village. She came from the city, her Swahili polished, her clothes a little different. Weena struggled in school too, but shined brightly in languages. She was the first person to sit next to Loma and talk to her as an equal. Loma and Weena sat at the far end of the classroom, side by side, always ranked at the bottom. But instead of shame, Weena often smiled. "Wow, Loma, what are you sketching this time? That elephant looks alive," she'd say, peeking at the pages of Loma's tattered drawing book. Loma would blush, quickly closing it. One afternoon, Weena invited Loma to her home. Her family had moved to Karumo recently from the city. Her father owned several shops there, and her mother had just opened a tailoring business in the village. When Loma stepped inside their home, she was greeted warmly by Weena's mother, a woman whose soft voice filled the room with kindness. Weena handed her test papers, full of red marks, to her mother. Instead of scolding, she pulled Weena into a hug and whispered, "Next time will be better. You just have to keep trying." Then she turned to the kitchen, saying lunch was ready. Loma blinked in disbelief. "For your mama still gives you food even when you don't pass?" she asked. Weena burst out laughing. "What do you mean, should I go hungry because I failed?" Loma quietly explained that she never showed her marks at home. If she did, she'd be punished harshly. She also had to hurry back to cook dinner. Weena, remembering the bruises she'd once seen on Loma's wrist, gave her a long, tight hug. "My parents know I'll never be great at math or science, but I speak over a dozen languages. I'll be a translator someday. Politicians, tourists, whoever needs words. You've got something too, Loma. You just have to find it." But Loma shook her head, eyes downcast. "No, I'm just stupid. My parents were right, I'll never be good at anything." As weeks passed, Loma started staying later at Weena's home. Mama Afia grew suspicious. "Where do you go these days? Cooking is never done on time," she barked. "You have a boyfriend now?" Loma replied, "I'm at Weena's house." Mama Afia laughed cruelly. "You? With friends?" Loma had now reached a class level higher than her mother had ever studied. Mama Afia had no clue how to help. She only barked commands. "Read harder after you clean." Baba Jabari would return home, find the dishes untouched, and shout, "What do you even do all day?" Loma tried to explain that high school hours were longer, that she barely had energy left for chores. Baba Jabari would then scold his wife, "Why can't you do it? You stay home all day." Afraid he'd discover her daily gossip sessions, Mama Afia would lie, claiming she was unwell. Then she'd vent her frustration on Loma, blaming her for the yelling. That year, Tendo and Kesa returned home for the holidays. Kesa, struggling with actuarial science, confessed she wanted to switch to engineering. Their parents were disappointed, but still proud. "At least it's still something smart," Baba Jabari said. Worry crept in about the rising school fees. Tendo, ever the golden son, offered to help using part of his scholarship funds. He returned to the city for his final year, while Kesa began mechanical engineering. Loma failed again. Another year passed. She failed again. Tendo graduated with honors, quickly landing an internship. Kesa passed her second year. Excitement buzzed through the Adebo home. They even started drawing plans to demolish their old house. Now that Tendo is a doctor, We'll build the big house, Mama Afia said, her eyes glowing. At the end of his first salary month, Tendo returned in a gleaming new car. He brought expensive fabrics, food hampers, and, unexpectedly, his fiancée, a dentist with a gentle voice and round belly. You mean she's a doctor like you? Baba Jabari asked, shaking her hand proudly. Daughter, you're welcome. But Mama Afia didn't smile as wide. After the couple left, she muttered to her husband, Now that he has a wife, will he still build us the house? Of course, Baba Jabari replied. He'll do more, a car even. We'll be a family of doctors. Wealth is coming. I hear doctors earn sacks of money, Mama Afia added dreamily. But their celebration was cut short when Loma timidly approached. I'm really struggling. I don't know if I can continue. The words weren't fully out before a slap cracked across her cheek. Are you mad? Do you think we're rich? You have no gift, no brains, Mama Afia shouted. I don't want to hear your nonsense, Baba Jabari added, shaking his head. So Loma continued, dragging herself to school despite everything. Weena had now moved a grade ahead, but they still shared lunch during breaks. 2 more years limped by. Weena barely passed her exams and left the village for further studies in the city. Loma stayed behind, the only sibling with no success story. Mama Afia continued her complaints. We gave everything for you to succeed. Why are we still here in this cracked house? Mama, I have my own family now, Tendo explained on one visit. I must support my wife. Life in the city is expensive. You rushed into marriage. You were supposed to build for us first, she snapped. Even when Tendo brought money or gifts, Mama Afia always looked disappointed. You call this a gift? You're a doctor, she'd scoff. To Kesa, she'd say, Now it's your turn. Your father's bones are tired. You must save this family. Tendo does so much, Kesa would defend. He feeds us, clothes us. No one here lives like we do. But Mama Afia didn't care. It's that woman's fault, she'd hiss. If he was still single, we'd have our mansion by now. Loma, now a hollow shell of sadness, packed her things one night and left Karumo. No one saw her leave. The next morning, Baba Jabari found a letter tucked beneath her mat. She'll be back, he said. She has no skills, no education. The city will eat her. Mama Afia nodded. But Loma had gone to Weena, now living in the outskirts of the city. She had no money, no plan, only the dream of building her own future. Meanwhile, Kesa finished school and began working. One morning, as Mama Afia was gossiping at the corner kiosk, a shiny car pulled up. Mama Afia, a voice called. It was Kesa. She stepped out in heels, her handbag glinting with gold zippers. Your daughter's car looks just like the chief's daughter's, one woman said. The comment made Mama Afia's smile falter. She wanted her children to be the richest, not just like the rich. You've done so well, Kesa, Mama Afia said one evening as they stood by the gate. I pray now you'll retire your father and finally build us a proper house. But Kesa, adjusting the scarf on her shoulder, replied, Mama, I'm still an intern. What I earn is barely enough for rent and transport. In fact, you should be the one sending me money, so I don't spend all mine on bills. Mama Afia's jaw dropped. You bought that huge car with internship money and now you say you're broke? She snapped. You were our last hope, Kesa. But Kesa rolled her eyes. Everyone I studied with drives big cars. You think I'll walk around while my peers enjoy their youth? Then, shifting the conversation, she asked, Have you heard from Loma? Mama Afia's face turned bitter. She called but refused to come home. Your father told her never to return after. What she did. Her voice cracked, her eyes watering. How did my children turn out like this? That evening, when Baba Jabari returned from laying bricks under the sun, Mama Afia pulled him aside. Speak to Kesa, she begged. Tell her to at least buy materials. You can build the house. Baba Jabari, shoulders sagging, said, My daughter, just buy the bricks and roofing, I'll do the rest. You know your Baba is the best builder Karumo has ever seen. But Kesa, arms folded, stood tall. Papa, why should I fix the dreams you failed to build? I'm your daughter, not your second chance. Baba Jabari shot up in anger. You speak like that to me. I fed you, clothed you, now you're too educated to show respect? Mama Afia jumped in, scolding Kesa for speaking so harshly, but her words fell flat. Kesa took her keys, stepped into her shiny car, and sped away, leaving behind only dust and a storm of disappointment. Time moved on. Tendo and his wife now had 2 young children, lived in a gated estate, and had started building a grand health center, he as a physician, she as a dentist. But their luxurious life came at a cost. With all their savings tied to the clinic and school fees, the flow of money to the village dried up. Keza, now used to her comfort, refused to send anything. Back in Karumo, Baba Jabari and Mama Afia's lives stood still. Their mud house cracked further. The only glimpse of wealth came during rare visits to the city. But Baba Jabari never stayed long. He always had a wall to plaster or a roof to fix. Mama Afia would return complaining. Tendo treats his wife like a queen, yet we who raised him have to beg for medicine, she'd say. She grumbled daily. Baba Jabari grew quieter, often staring blankly at the walls. Slowly his health began to fade. He stopped taking jobs. And when his bones ached or he coughed through the night, Mama Afia had to borrow money from neighbors just to buy medicine. Why borrow with 2 children in high-paying jobs? People asked. My son sent money. I just haven't gone to town to withdraw it, she'd lie. But her lies wore thin. One night Baba Jabari's condition worsened. No remedy helped. The clinic sent them to the main hospital, where the doctor said he needed emergency surgery. Something costly beyond belief. Mama Afia ran from door to door, begging. Some slammed their doors, others shook their heads. You still owe us, they said. Desperate, she called Tendo and Kesa. Your father wishes to see you. Please come, she begged, even calling Weena's mother, now owner of several pharmacies. But Weena's mother refused. You won't repay me, Afia. You fooled me before. The next morning, Tendo and Kesa arrived. They all traveled together to the hospital. Mama Afia muttered in the car, I can't believe my son is a doctor, yet can't save his own father. Tendo sighed. Mama, I'm not a magician. I've been saving every coin for our clinic. We had to take a loan for the equipment. I have staff to pay. Even I don't have the money right now. Mama Afia turned sharply to Kesa. And you? Kesa shook her head. I came with Tendo because I couldn't fuel my car, but I'll take a loan after I return. You should have taken it when I first called you, Mama Afia shouted. Must I sing for you? The car ride continued in loud accusations and bitter silence. When they reached the ward, they found the bed empty. Panic surged. They ran, up and down the hall, flinging open doors. Finally, the doctor called them into his office. He's no longer here, the doctor said, but don't worry, he's alive. A woman took him last night. Here's the address. Confused and desperate, they traveled to the city, arriving the next day. To their shock, Baba Jabari lay resting peacefully in a private suite at a luxurious hospital, one reserved for ministers and tycoons. She is here, he whispered. Just then, Loma stepped in, carrying a bowl of fresh fruit and a gentle smile. The room froze. Loma? Mama Afia gasped, pulling her into a trembling hug. How did you? Baba Jabari explained it was Loma who had brought him here and paid for everything. Papa, is this a joke? Tendo asked. Even I can't afford a place like this, Kisa laughed dryly. This hospital is for the elite. How could she, of all people, afford this? Their father asked Loma to explain. She only smiled. When you're discharged, I'll tell you everything. Kesa snorted. We'll see. Let's hope she hasn't borrowed and dragged us into more debt. She turned on her heel and walked out. We'll probably need loans just to pay back whoever helped her, she added. A week later, after Baba Jabari was released, Loma came to take him home. As they neared the village, a crowd had gathered. As the scorching midday sun glared over the village of Karumo, the Adebo household waited at the roadside, uneasy and restless. Then, to the disbelief of every tongue and eye in the village, convoy of gleaming black vehicles curved into their dusty lane, gliding like royal boats through a dry river. The villagers gasped. Doors flew open in unison, and out stepped Loma, radiant, poised, helping her father Baba Jabari from the back seat. Uniformed aides stood nearby, opening gates and adjusting hats. Mama Afia nearly fainted. That Loma, Kisa whispered, clutching her chest. Maybe she's just working for her city friend. What was her name again? But no one answered. Confusion turned to panic, and the entire family scrambled to welcome the unexpected guests into their tiny, crumbling house. Inside the cramped living room, shame wrapped around the air like a wet cloth. Mama Afia's eyes welled with tears. My sweet daughter, my Loma, we searched everywhere. You left us in such sorrow. Why, child? She wailed, reaching toward her. Loma, standing tall beside Weena, looked at her father. Papa, she said softly, I came back for you. Weena's mother told me how sick you were. You told me to never return, but I came anyway. Her voice cracked as she turned to the room. And I brought Weena here because you all still think I'm the stupid girl who'd never be anything. Her tears finally fell. I had something in me. You just never saw it. I used to draw dresses, but you threw them away. Those same drawings paid for Papa's surgery. The room sank into silence like a drum had stopped mid-beat. You never believed in me, Loma continued, sobbing. You called me names, beat me, punished me, just for not being good in books. Her pain spilled from her like a broken calabash. If Weena hadn't told me I had talent, I would have disappeared forever. Her family friend took me to the city. I studied fashion design. Today, I'm one of the country's top designers. It's because of her. Weena embraced Loma, her eyes shining with pride. In this house I was a slave, but I made it, despite you. Loma dropped to her knees. You never loved me. Mama Afia sobbed into her wrapper, stunned. Weena gently lifted Loma and led her back to the car. No one had the courage to stop her. The convoy reversed slowly, dust dancing beneath the tires. Kesa stood speechless. Days later, after much pleading and humiliation, Mama Afia managed to get Loma's address from Weena's mother. The entire family, parents and siblings, set off for the city. As their taxi rolled past beautiful homes, Kesa scoffed. She said she's a designer, but there's no way she can live in this place. Still bitter? Tendo replied. You couldn't even help buy our father medicine, yet you're judging her. Oh, now she's our sister, Kesa snapped. You ignored her for years, and now you want her help with your debts? Their bickering ended abruptly when they reached Loma's mansion. The guards refused them entry for not calling ahead. After waiting for hours, they were allowed in and greeted by smartly dressed staff. When Loma finally entered the room, the family stood up, words tumbling over each other. Loma, forgive us, Mama Afia cried. Can a mother really hate her child? Baba Jabari nodded in agreement. Loma stayed calm. Mama, Papa, you loved Kesa and Tendo because of what they could give you, and it broke me. But I forgave you a long time ago. That's why I paid for the surgery. But understand, this is all you'll receive from me. She turned to her mother. You were supposed to build me up, not tear me down. I never played like other kids. I never heard I was special. I lived like a prisoner. Many nights, I wanted to end everything. Other children laughed, studied, and lived. But me, I cried alone. Then she looked at her father. I wanted you to live long enough to see what that useless girl became. Tears flowed freely. I forgive you, all of you. Her voice trembled but stood firm. Everyone in this room wept. She stepped into another room, returning moments later with a large stack of cash. She placed it on the table. This will clear your debts in Karumo. Weena's mother told me you've been borrowing for food and medicine. Mama Afia's hands shook as she reached for the money. One of my drivers will take you home, Loma said, standing. I have a meeting to attend. You're leaving already? Tendo asked. We thought you'd stay, catch up, Kisa added. Loma didn't turn back. Oh, now I'm not the fool, now I'm your sister, she said, stepping toward the door. My sister's name is Weena. She instructed her assistant to prepare the car for the guests. Though she had forgiven her family, Loma never returned to Karumo. She would call sometimes on birthdays or holidays, but the distance between them had settled like dust on old furniture. Back in the village, Baba Jabari and Mama Afia continued to live in the same worn house. Whenever Mama Afia heard of another child bringing wealth home, she'd return with fresh bitterness. Remember that girl who used to walk barefoot to school? She came back with a jeep. And her parents now have a store and generator. Baba. Jabari would sigh, voice thin. Let it go, Afia. Others did right. We didn't. Now we live with it. His health never truly recovered. Loma still heard through Weena that her parents struggled. It pained her, but she only sent what they needed to survive, no more, no less.